All right, so you're here with us today
Hmm.
because you really want to know how those like paper planners and notebooks get all the way from Cambodia
Yeah.
over to the USA,
Hmm.
and you don't have a lot of time,
Right.
and you want that info without all the extra fluff.
You want the meat.
That's exactly what we're serving up today.
We are.
We're going to extract like the critical information you need to understand how those paper planners and notebooks are shipped.
Exactly. We're going to give you a really clear picture of what those shipping timelines look like and all the logistics that are involved in getting your stationery from, across the ocean,
So our mission
across the world.
is to arm you with a really solid understanding of how this whole journey works so you can navigate this part of international trade
Yeah.
with total confidence.
Absolutely.
Let's dive right in.
Let's do it. When we're talking about shipping these goods,
Yeah.
what kind of time frames should you typically expect?
The general like
What's the
range involved?
You have two primary methods you can choose from: air freight and ocean freight, and each of them has its own timeline. So for speed, air freight is the fastest, and that usually takes about 5 to 10 days.
Okay.
So this is really often what retailers choose if they have a smaller shipment
Okay.
or if it's something that's a little bit more urgent.
Right.
So let's say like you're a boutique retailer and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like this particular planner that you carry is in huge demand. You need to quickly replenish 500 units.
Yeah.
Air freight could get those to your store within a week.
Oh, okay. So that's like the fast lane option.
That's the fast lane.
But what about if you're dealing with much larger quantities and you're not in a rush?
Right.
You don't need it like right away.
Yeah, if you're not facing an immediate rush, ocean freight is probably a better option for you.
Okay.
So the typical transit time for ocean freight is longer. It's around 25 to 40 days.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
But the advantage here is that it's way more cost effective,
Okay.
especially when you're shipping in bulk.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's say, for example, you're a larger retailer and you're importing 5,000 notebooks.
Wow.
You might decide that that longer transit time is worth it
Yeah,
because you're saving so much money on shipping costs.
makes sense. So it sounds like a classic trade-off
Yeah.
between
Classic trade-off.
speed
Exactly.
versus savings.
Uh,
That's the name of the game in shipping.
yeah. But I'm guessing there's more to it than just like picking one of those two and then just like waiting.
Way more.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that can affect how long it takes for these goods to arrive?
Yeah, so the actual time that the goods are in transit, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
What happens before the shipment even leaves Cambodia is super important.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So production lead time, which is basically how long it takes to actually make the planners or the notebooks and get
Right.
them ready to be shipped, that directly impacts the overall timeline.
So that's like on the manufacturing side.
That's exact.
Yeah. Got it. So think back to that retailer that's ordering those planners for a big sales event. Even the fastest shipping in the world
Right.
won't help them if those planners aren't actually ready to go when the truck shows up to pick them up.
Right. They can't leave if they're not ready.
Exactly. You got to have everything ready to go.
That's a good point. The starting gun can't go off if the runners aren't at the starting line.
Love that analogy. That's a good one.
So we talked about the choice between air and ocean. Are there other parts of that decision
Yeah.
that can affect timing?
Absolutely. So while speed and cost are the primary factors, unexpected things that happen in the market can also play a role.
Okay.
So let's say like a specific notebook design suddenly goes viral on TikTok or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And a retailer that normally relies on ocean freight to ship their goods, they might decide to pay extra
No.
for air freight.
To get on that trend.
Exactly. They want to restock quickly and capitalize on that trend.
Yeah.
So it's all about being agile and responsive to whatever is happening in the market.
That's it. Sometimes you got to pay a premium to grab an opportunity,
Absolutely.
for sure. What about things that are a little less in your control?
Oh, yeah.
Like what's going on at the ports themselves?
So port congestion is a huge factor,
Yeah, okay.
and seasonality plays a big role in that.
What does that mean?
So during peak shopping periods, like the holidays or back to school season.
Right, everyone's buying stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ports can get incredibly congested,
Oh, I bet.
which can cause major delays.
Wow. So like the ships are just waiting
Oh, yeah. They're just sitting there.
to get in.
Yeah. And our information specifically notes November as a potentially really busy month
Okay.
because of all the holiday shopping that's happening.
It makes sense.
So if you're shipping during those times, you want to build in some extra time
Yeah.
just in case there are delays at the port.
So like a buffer.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. Port congestion. It sounds
Yeah.
like the logistical equivalent of like traffic jams.
It's terrible.
But like on a global scale.
On a global scale.
And then there's that whole process of getting through customs in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
That seems like another place where things can get held up.
Absolutely. Customs clearance. It's a major pinch point for delays.
And why is that?
Well, it can be for a lot of different reasons, but the most common one
Yeah.
is that there are problems with your documentation.
Okay.
So, for example, if your invoices aren't filled out correctly or if there's any confusion about the goods that you're shipping, customs officials can put your shipment on hold until everything's sorted out.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like needing the right visa to enter a country.
Okay.
You know, if you don't have the proper paperwork, you're going to be stuck at the border.
You're not getting in.
Nope.
Okay. So it sounds like there are a lot of different elements.
So many moving parts.
Yeah, that can either speed things up or slow them down.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk more about the difference between air freight and ocean freight.
Okay.
We've talked about like the basic speed and cost, but what are some other pros and cons of each method? So let's start with air freight.
All right, so with air freight, obviously the biggest pro is speed.
Yep.
But another big advantage is that it's more efficient in terms of handling.
What's that mean?
So basically, because there are fewer times that your shipment is being moved from one place to another compared to ocean freight, there's less risk of your planners and notebooks getting damaged in transit.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that can be a really big plus if you're worried about keeping your products in perfect condition.
Right, because they're delicate.
Exactly. Paper can bend, tear. You don't want that.
You want them pristine.
Exactly.
But the downside is the cost.
Yeah, the cost is the big downside.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of the difference, the information we looked at said that air freight can be around $5 per kilogram.
Wow.
Whereas ocean freight can be as low as $1 per kilogram.
So it's 5 times more expensive.
Yeah, it can be.
Right.
And that price difference really adds up, especially if you're shipping a large volume of goods.
That is a huge difference in price.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at ocean freight. We know that it's cheaper, especially for bulk orders.
Yeah, way cheaper.
What are some of the other advantages?
Well, besides the cost savings, which can be up to 60% compared to air freight for shipments over 1,000 units.
Okay.
Another big advantage of ocean freight is that you can ship a much larger volume of goods.
Okay.
So if you're dealing with really huge quantities, ocean freight is just a better equipped to handle it.
Right, so you can fit more on a ship.
Basically, yeah.
Makes sense.
But the downside, of course, is the longer transit time.
Right.
Which isn't ideal if you need your goods quickly.
And then there's also that risk of delays.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like we talked about with port congestion.
From weather and things.
Yeah. Weather, port traffic.
Yeah.
All sorts of things can cause delays with ocean freight.
So it sounds like it really comes down to what are your priorities?
Exactly.
How do you actually go about deciding which of these methods is the right fit for you?
Well, there are a few key things you need to consider.
Okay.
The first one is the volume of your shipment.
Okay.
So for large quantities, ocean freight is usually the way to go. The second thing is urgency.
Okay.
So if you absolutely need those planners or notebooks to arrive ASP,
like right now?
yeah, then air freight is probably going to be necessary, even though it costs more.
Okay.
And then finally, you need to think about your budget.
Right.
Can you afford to shell out the extra cash for air freight?
Yeah.
Or do you need to go with the more economical option of ocean freight?
It's all about money.
It is.
All right, let's move on to this topic that I know a lot of people find intimidating, customs and documentation.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What are the absolute must-knows in this area?
All right, so this is a really important part of the process because if you make mistakes here, it can cause huge delays.
Right.
And even like financial penalties.
Oh, no.
So there are 3 main documents that you're going to need to be familiar with.
Okay, great.
The first one is the commercial invoice. All right, and this is basically a detailed list of all the goods that you're shipping, and it includes their value, which is important because customs officials use that to determine duties and taxes.
Okay.
The second document is the packing list.
Got it.
And this outlines how your goods are packed, including the weight and dimensions of each package.
Okay.
This helps customs with their inspections.
So they know what to expect.
Exactly.
All
And then finally, there's the bill of lading.
Right.
And this is like your receipt and contract with the shipping company.
Okay.
It proves that they received your goods, and it outlines the terms of the shipment, like who owns the goods while they're in transit.
Okay, those are the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So what are some tips for making sure your shipment clears customs smoothly and doesn't get held up.
The most important thing is accuracy.
Okay.
You got to make sure that everything on your documents is correct.
No typos.
No typos,
Yeah.
no mistakes, nothing.
Okay.
Double check everything.
Yeah.
To avoid any discrepancies that could raise red flags with customs.
Got it.
And another good tip, especially if you're new to all of this,
Yeah.
is to think about hiring a customs broker.
Oh, interesting. What's that?
So they're basically experts in navigating customs regulations.
Okay.
And they can help you avoid any potential pitfalls.
So they're like your guide through the customs maze.
Exactly. They know all the ins and outs.
All right. So that could be a worthwhile investment
Oh, yeah, especially if you're shipping a lot of goods.
to prevent any major headaches.
Absolutely.
Are there any common mistakes that people make with customs
Oh, yeah, there are a couple of big ones.
that we should avoid?
Definitely. The first one is underdeclaring the value of your goods.
Okay.
So basically, this means lying about how much your goods are worth
Mm-hmm.
to try to pay less in duties and taxes.
Trying to cheat the system.
Exactly. But it's a really bad idea
Okay.
because customs agencies are really good at catching people who do this.
Go, I bet.
Yeah. And if you get caught, you could face some serious legal consequences.
So not worth it.
Definitely not worth it.
The other common mistake is incomplete documentation.
Right.
So just making sure you got all your paperwork in order.
Exactly. You need to make sure that you've provided all the required documents and that everything's filled out correctly.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do that, it's going to cause delays
Okay.
because customs officials are going to have to chase you down to get the missing information.
So it's all about honesty and being thorough.
Exactly. That's the key to smooth sailing through customs.
Perfect. All right. So beyond just getting through customs, are there other practical steps that businesses can take
Yeah.
to make their shipping process more efficient?
Absolutely. So one of the best things you can do is partner with a reputable logistics company
Okay.
that has experience in international shipping.
Mm-hmm.
They can handle a lot of the complexities for you and make
Yeah.
sure that the process goes smoothly from start to finish.
So take some of the weight off your shoulders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another good tip is to plan your shipments well in advance, especially if you're shipping during peak seasons.
Like around the holidays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That will help you avoid delays caused by port congestion.
That's all right.
And then finally, make sure you're taking advantage of all the digital tracking tools that are available.
Oh, yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, a lot of logistics companies offer these tools now,
Mm.
and they allow you to see exactly where your shipment is in real time.
So you know where it is at all times.
Exactly.
That's very cool. All right, so the source material that we've been looking at
Uh-huh.
today
Yeah.
actually includes a perspective from a manufacturer based in Cambodia.
It does.
Tell us about Lion Paper Products.
So Line Paper Products, they're based in Cambodia,
Mhm.
and they really emphasize their experience in both manufacturing and shipping paper goods.
Okay.
They specifically highlight their dependable and efficient shipping solution.
Okay.
And they say that they can get your products from Cambodia to Los Angeles in just 30 days.
30 days.
30 days.
That's impressive.
It is, especially for ocean freight. And they also mention that they have shipments leaving every Sunday,
Oh, wow.
which means that they have a really regular and reliable schedule.
That sounds good for businesses.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So 30 days to LA, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
What else do they emphasize as a benefit?
So what's really interesting is that they compare their shipping process to shipping from Chinese ports.
Yeah.
And they point out a really significant benefit:
What's that?
no tariff impact,
Oh, wow.
which is a huge deal in today's global trade environment.
Yeah, they can save a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah. And they also emphasize fast delivery, reduced shipping costs, and easier customs clearance
Okay.
as key benefits of choosing them as a supplier.
A pretty compelling case,
It is.
especially for U.S. businesses.
Early.
Yeah, avoiding those tariffs.
It's a big one.
It's a huge deal.
Huge.
For sure. And they even include a quote from their CEO, Leo Shia.
They do.
What's his take on their shipping process?
So his message is super clear and very customer focused.
Okay.
He says, you design, we deliver.
I like that.
Yeah, it's catchy. And
Yeah.
it basically means that once you've finalized your product design, Line Paper Products will take care of everything else.
Okay.
They'll get it manufactured and shipped to you without any hassle.
So you don't have to worry about a thing.
Exactly.
All right. So for those of you listening, especially if you're thinking about sourcing your paper planners and notebooks from Cambodia,
Mm-hmm.
Lion Paper seems like a really interesting option
Yeah, they do.
with that streamlined shipping process
And no tariffs.
and the big no tariffs benefit.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Okay, we've covered a ton of information today in this deep dive.
We have.
So let's recap the key takeaways about shipping these goods from Cambodia to the USA.
Okay, so the most important thing to remember is that You need to choose the right shipping method for your needs.
Okay.
Air freight if you need speed, ocean freight if you're looking for cost effectiveness.
Got it.
And you also need to understand all the different factors that can affect your delivery timeline,
Right.
like production, lead time, port congestion, customs procedures, all of those things.
So many things to think about.
So many. And the decision about which shipping method to use should be based on a few key things.
Like what?
The volume of goods that you're shipping,
Okay.
how quickly you need them to arrive, and your budget.
Makes sense. And then to get through customs successfully, you need to have all your paperwork in order.
Absolutely.
And know when to call in the experts.
Exactly. A customs broker can be a lifesaver.
And overall, you can make your whole shipping process more efficient by working with a good logistics company, planning ahead and using those tracking tools.
Exactly. Those are the keys to success.
All right. So as you process all this info, think about how these shipping realities, the timelines, the costs,
Yeah.
the potential for disruptions, all of that,
It's a lot.
how does it impact your overall business strategy?
Right.
How could those unexpected global events, like a pandemic or a war or who knows, what else, how could that mess things up even more?
Right.
And how would you prepare for that?
It makes you think.
It really does. It makes you realize how connected everything is in global trade.
Absolutely.
And just the incredible journey that those paper products take to get to their final destination.
It's a long journey.
It is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya. Bye.